You are listening to the Amplifying Leadership podcast, where we explore what great leadership really looks like through real stories, actionable takeaways, and expert conversations. I am Tara Naiman, founder and CEO of Amplifying Leadership, here to help you lead with intention and influence. Don't forget to join us on Thursday for Tip Thursday with Tara as well. For today, thanks for tuning in to today's guest episode. Today, I am welcoming Maya Sharfi, an executive coach and founder of Build Yourself. Welcome to Amplifying Leadership.
I'm so happy to be here.
And it's great to have you. And we have an interesting topic today. But let's start with just let the audience know a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am a leadership and executive coach. My specialty is working with women leaders. And my background is that I have probably been doing women's empowerment work since I was 12. And I had a previous career in design. But when I was in that career, I found myself doing a lot of work gathering women together, teaching workshops on how to have more confident mindsets, how to advance in our careers, and then eventually, my mom is a social worker, and I had always thought, oh, I'm not going to talk to people for a living. I'm going to make stuff, and then eventually I realized I actually really loved that part of what I was doing, and people started asking me to coach them, and then from there I built my career coaching and leadership practice.
It's funny when we start to talk and we start to realize that that's something we really enjoy doing, because I went from corporate to doing consulting and coaching as well and training, and I just love it, where I can just connect and talk to others. So definitely can connect with you on that one. So today we want to talk a little bit about stepping into that next level role. And because we have a global audience joining us today, I want you to have a chance to explain, what do you mean by next level? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So when we're talking about a next role, we're talking about your next job, your next job within your company. And I see that as being made up of two components. So the first thing is fit, right? It's alignment between who you are, what drives you, your skill sets, your interests, but also your lifestyle, right? How do you want work to support your life, salary level?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to travel? Do you not want to travel, commute, all of that? And so that's the fit, right? And that's really about work being fulfilling and work fulfilling what we want to get out of work. But then there's also growth, which I think is a component of fit, which is, I think those of us who are growth driven and ambitious, and I'm assuming probably majority of your listeners,
Yeah.
We're always looking for our next edge. And it's not because we're unfulfilled, but it's just because we're those people who are wired to want to meet our potential within this life. And so you can have a job that fits in a lot of ways, but you want to continue to grow, right? You want to continue to get to that next level of challenge. And so sometimes that happens within your role, right? It's about, you can think of it as your next level goals, but sometimes you've outgrown your role and it's time to find the next one.
And I love that you bring that up, because as my audience probably knows, I'm all about leadership growth, or just growing in your careers. And that doesn't mean that you're going for the next big promotion necessarily, does it? I mean, it can mean that, like you mentioned, there's a challenge, or there's something I just want to learn, or a project I want to work on that maybe has an end time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things I weed out, or I don't know if I weed out, I would say, because I still work with these people, but we figure out very quickly when we work together is I have a lot of clients who come to me wanting to get promoted or wanting to grow. They're feeling stagnated in their company. And we break down what I call the four zones of career alignment, right? So
Okay.
the work you want to do, the impacts you want to make, your lifestyle fit, what the right cultures and working styles are right for you. And we look at that, and then we look at your current job, because what we want to make sure that we're doing is we want to make sure we're understanding, is there a misalignment in fit? And is there a misalignment in growth? But if it's just about the title, or if you don't like your reasons for growing, right? It's a title chasing. You want to have good reasons for it. Oh, I want to increase my salary. Oh, I mean, it's funny. There's a big bias I see sometimes where people. I work particularly with women who can be beset by imposter syndrome, and so sometimes they don't
Mm-hmm.
even see that they can get more fit through growing because they might have imposter syndrome about growing. But we want to make sure that you actually like your reasons for going after the next title, and that they feel like they're intrinsic versus what I see happen sometimes, which is for some reason, I think I'm going to be more fulfilled once I grow, and then I get to that title, I still feel empty. So that I think it's going to be solved with the next title up, right? That's
Hmm.
unintentional title chasing.
Yeah, corporate ladder is also sometimes what it is, climbing the corporate ladder. And sometimes this comes because that's what we want and it's better fit and better alignment, like you're talking to. But sometimes it's because we grew up believing that that's what we're supposed to do, or mom or dad or aunt or uncle or somebody is pushing us that way. And when we talk about alignment, love that you brought that up because alignment and fit are so very important so that we're happier at work. I'll never say happy because there's always something we don't like about our jobs, but so we're happier at work. So when you think about people feeling like they need to climb the corporate ladder versus wanting to, what are some of those differences that you see when it comes to your clients?
Yeah, so I'll give two examples that I
Perfect.
think are highly relatable. I coached a woman whose dad was a very, very successful business leader, and she had a lot of opportunity, a lot of privilege, and she came to me very, very burned out. And one of
Mm,
her thoughts was, I've been given so much privilege, so I have to do something with it. And it was like and if you have a thought like that, right? Like I have to do something with it. A lot of the time you will do something with it and it won't feel like enough. And you'll do something with it and it won't feel like
mhm,
enough. And so what we had to look at for her was, well, again, that's why I go back to those four zones, right? What do you want work? What skill sets do you want it to allow you to use? What skill sets
mm,
do you want to grow? Right. Well, what cultures are the right fit for you? What are the issues or impacts or I think impact is not just, purpose causes, but
mhm.
it's looking at what issues and what values you care about and which ones you want to make your
Yes.
imprint on in the working world, right? And so when you take your eyes off of somebody else's paper and you really look at, well, what drives me, then you can make a better choice about, oh, is this actually a fit for me? If I do want to grow, what are the reasons that I want to grow? Oh, there's some impact I really want to make here, or I really want to grow this skill set, or and you can feel more satisfied with what you're currently doing. And then at the same time, you can look at what the next level would be, but it doesn't come from an external
Mm,
metric of, oh, somehow I've been given all this privilege and I have to do something with that. It comes from, oh, I'm a unique human. And in my time on the planet, I want to express more of what I'm capable of. Or maybe it's things like, no, I do want a higher salary because, I have these financial goals, but it's
mhm,
having reasons that come from you versus feeling like there's something outside of you that needs to be filled. Because every time you fill it, it's kind of like, I imagine it, like a hole in the desert. You pour water in, it just sinks back into the
mhm.
to the soil, right? Or to
Yeah.
the sand. And it's like that chasing that, it never gets filled up. So yeah, and it's different for everybody, right? It could be a narrative about your father. It could be, I'm a first generation college student and I need, I want to prove this, right? I
Mhm,
want to prove this, or my parents sacrificed so much for me, right? So it can come from a lot of different places internally. My parents had a narrative that, I know I'm not like blaming it all on our parents, but it can come from other places, right? Like my parents had a narrative that if you're not ahead, then you're falling behind, right? It can come from a lot of
mm,
places. Um, on the other side, right? I coached a client who she was feeling unfulfilled in her job, and we were looking at the work that she wanted to do, and it was more strategic and more high level.
mm,
And I think it just didn't occur to her. She thought, oh, I need to just change the job to get to, maybe I need to be in another industry. But it was really that she actually wanted to be doing work at a higher level of leadership and have more responsibility and be zoomed out of the weeds and be more strategic.
mm.
And I think it just didn't occur to her. No, it's about actually growing upwards versus, oh, wait, this job is unfulfilling. I haven't diagnosed exactly why. Maybe I just need, should I change careers? Should I change industries? Right. Like, and so sometimes growth is actually a way for you to get that fit.
Yeah. And I love what you're saying too, because it's making it deeply personal rather than outside influence. And, sometimes you figure out that that industry isn't for you, and that's the biggest problem. So maybe you go same job, but different industry. I mean, there's a lot of different things here. And I also want to touch on something that you mentioned, which is the values. If we're not aligned, our values don't align with the organization or the job, that's a misalignment as well. In order to
Yeah,
be happier at work, we need to have our values be paid attention to, so to speak, maybe the wrong words, but it really is deeply personal around that as well. So I'm sure you have some experience that with your clients, that values, what means something to you versus what does the job look like, right?
exactly. And sometimes those values are things that we typically think of as purpose, right? I want to make an impact on this issue or that. But sometimes they're a little bit more subtle, right? It could be that you have a value of high attention to detail or integrity
Mhm.
on promises that you make. Or it could be that a value that you have is dealing with long-term sustainability versus just attending to short-term problems, right? And so
Right.
this is the amazing thing about I think, right, you're going to see like why I love what I do, right? The amazing thing about humans is we're all different. I can have one client who says to me, oh my gosh, I don't want to travel. I have young kids at home, or for whatever reason, I don't want to travel. And then in the very next session, I'll have a client say, I would love a job where I can travel. And the
Hmm.
same thing is true with values, right? Oh, I really care about details. It's not, we're not in an integrity. And I have other clients who are like, oh, we're such bean counters. I want to look at, like, we're not looking at the big picture, right? And so it's so
Right.
unique to each person. And that's part of what's amazing is that we're all highly unique. And therefore, I think, and companies are highly unique. So there is a
Hmm.
spot for each of us to fit when we tune into our unique DNA or blueprint, and then we know how to then filter for the right fit companies for us.
So, if we do this type of self reflection and we consider what our mindsets are telling us and what our personal values are telling us, is there anything that we need to consider to make that successful next move or that next level if we want to be promoted?
Yeah. So what we've got to do is we've got to go from that set of values, right? Or that set of, I call them drivers, your four zones of career
Hmm.
alignment. And then from there, you want to identify between one and three potential roles. And you want them to be specific, right? So it should be
Hmm.
what I tell my clients, what I guide my clients through is there's a role. So you've got a title, there's a industry, and then there's an example company. So you actually know it exists versus this would be the fantasy. Wait, does this
Yeah.
actually exist in the market? And the reason that you want between one and three is because if you have too many, it's really overwhelming. Your brain can't
Hmm.
focus. You can't start envisioning your future self who already has that role and start acting like that person. You can't get perfectly positioned for that role and tell the right stories of the right results and drop the right lingo because you're very broad and very vague, right? This happens a lot with
Hmm.
leaders who are looking for their next role because they've kind of become generalists, and so we have to look for where is that specificity, and some of that comes from how what the role is, and then how do you perfectly position yourself for it.
Hmm.
And so you want one to three, and that's also where your limiting beliefs might come up. And so let me think of a good example. So I have a client who is in the tech sector, and she works in she's not in, for example, like the Bay Area or New York City, or she's in a different location. And she had a really big limiting belief that it's going to be really hard to find a remote role because she doesn't want to
Hmm.
commute to her market that's probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours away.
Right.
But I know it's a limiting belief because I know that there are tons of companies in the tech sector that are all remote, have always been all remote, right? That's just how
Hmm.
it is, right? But
Yeah.
those beliefs, they hold us back from considering those one to three roles. And so what we need to do is we need to get clear on what would those one to three roles be if you waved your magic wand and it was always possible. And then from there, okay, now you invite in why do I think it's not possible? Because then those are just obstacles to solve.
And I love that you get rid of that magic or add the magic, sorry, because I say the same thing to people is if you could have the perfect thing, what would it look like with career, for example? And so also want to come back to another piece of that, which is where we have too much choice, which you were referring to as well. So sometimes let's get out the magic wand. Let's put what are our top one to three ideal jobs so that we can have a clearer choice as well. It gets rid of some decision fatigue, doesn't it, when you go through the process? Because, okay, I want this job, and maybe it doesn't exist, but maybe something similar does. And we can take some decisions out of the picture. Would you agree with that?
Yes. I mean, I think when I think about what I do, I'm chief decision. How do I want to frame this? It's like chief decision scoping officer, right? Because
Okay,
it's like
yeah.
you're like what chief, yeah, I'm chief decision scoping officer, and then or chief driver understander, right? Because a lot of us can't see our own drivers, right? It's like I
Hmm.
don't know what I like. I'm sure some of the people listening are like, oh my God, she's asking me to define my values. I hate that. I have to do like another exercise where I reflect things and then all the words sound kind of arbitrary. And then I'm like, I don't really know,
Hmm.
does this describe it? It's actually very difficult to pull them out of yourself. So for me,
Hmm.
years ago when I was considering a career change, I was like, well, I'm a career coach, but I'm going to hire another one because there's no way like
Hmm.
I can do this for myself. But then I'm also chief decision scoper. So if you try to be like, what do I want to do with my life? It's just such a broad question. So you
Huge,
need to,
yeah.
yeah, chop it up into let's decide this piece, then let's decide this piece, then let's decide this piece. And then I'm chief limiting officer, limiting belief spotter, because one of the reasons we won't let ourselves see what we want is because we just think it's not possible. And then
Yeah.
our brains think if you knew what you wanted, which I currently believe isn't possible, if you knew what you wanted, you would immediately see it's not possible and then you would feel sad. So I'm going to protect you by not giving you access to what you really want so that you
Hmm.
don't feel sad then, right? Which is squirrely and weird because, and it's also completely normal because the reality is we can know what we want. And then in the small case that it's totally not possible, then feeling a little bit of sadness is doable. But
Hmm.
9 times out of 10, it's actually possible. And there's just a mistaken assumption about why it's not possible. Or let's say doing it in this one industry isn't possible with your current lifestyle. Well, like you said, maybe in high stakes consulting, it doesn't work for you. But oh, wait, I'm making this up, but like nonprofit
Hmm.
consulting is a little bit more chill. Oh, actually, no, that uses the same strategic thinking and problem solving skills I'd love to use. And all of my knowledge about KPIs, I get to bring them here, right? So, but you can't
Yeah.
engage in that creative problem solving till you actually have that 1 to 3 roles, which your brain is like kind of wanting you not to see. So,
And you have to get over the fear of wanting to try it too, which it goes a little bit with that next level. And some people holding themselves back because those limiting beliefs and imposter syndromes come in there as well. We tell ourselves that, oh, I can't be that female leader, in X industry. We hold ourselves back rather than saying, I can do this. Yeah, there might be
yeah,
challenges
yeah,
and humps, but I can do it, right? And that's the mindset shift too that needs to happen.
yeah.
Let me just turn this around for a second and let's talk about the business owner here because sometimes they're trying to promote from within or they're trying to get someone to the next level, even if it's just a skill and it's still their same job, but adding a skill or something to that. What do they need to remember about this process? What strategies? I mean, this is kind of a dual question, but also what kind of strategies should they have in place for this?
Yeah. So when I work with business owners and I'm growing their teams, 9 times out of 10, the thing that I work on is how to give clear and effective feedback.
Hmm.
So I
Yes.
have a feeling this is true for you as well.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah. I do that in my corporate life too, right?
Yeah.
Feedback's
Yeah.
important, but yeah, absolutely talk to my clients about it.
Yeah. And so since I specialize in working with women, I'll share, yeah, I think this actually applies to people of all genders, but I'll share a specific thing that comes up a lot, which is
Hmm.
a lot of the time, well, I would say there's two places where we give feedback ineffectively, right? So let's say you spot something that is a gap between someone and being able to perform at the next level. So I'm actually right now in conversations with a company who they want their uh, upcoming leaders to grow in terms of their ability to confidently hold lead projects
Hmm.
and stand firm with client inquiries versus it doesn't mean that you're not going to work with them, but there's like a confidence where you're not just trying
Right.
to please the client all the time, right? So that's one of the things that they're working on. So you spot that gap, right? You say, oh, here's this gap that I see. And in order for these people to lead these projects or these efforts without me being in every meeting, for example, or doing it more effectively and instilling more confidence in the client, they need to be able to hold firm a little bit more, right? And
Hmm.
being a little bit more confident saying no or saying, um, yeah. So we've defined the problem. So the two places that I see people get hung up are number one, specificity, right? So being able to
Hmm.
describe what's happening really specifically. And if you say, oh, you need to be more confident with clients and say no more, that's kind of vague and nobody really knows how to
Mm-hmm.
apply it. And so what you want to do is you want to use a really specific example. Here's what I saw. Here's how I would do it differently. And then what do you think about that? Right. And then where would be the next opportunity that you think this could come up? Right. So you're getting them to do the thinking. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So specificity. But the second thing, and this comes up in a lot of my work with women, because women are, I think, socialized more than men to be pleasers, caregivers, to worry about, to want to be likable, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
actually pushback against women who are harsh or like depart from the idea of like, oh,
Right.
I'm just like really caring and nice. Is that they have a really hard time giving direct feedback because sometimes direct feedback hurts. And so then they'll be even less specific because they're saying it kind of vaguely because they're trying not to hurt someone. But then the end result is nobody really knows, what do I act on? Or maybe
Mm-hmm.
they avoid giving the feedback, right? They just maybe they like I've worked with leaders who have had feedback they've been sitting on for 3 years, tolerating much lower
Yes.
performance,
Yeah.
and they just don't say it, right? And I actually think this can happen for people of all genders, but depending on our personalities. But that's the other
Mm-hmm.
really big area.
And I like that you bring that up because when we're not specific in feedback or even just in communication, I literally was training on this morning. We have to be more specific because otherwise, no one understands how we improve. Or if it's a disciplinary type conversation, we don't even know, specifically what was wrong. And so using examples to improve or discipline, if that's what you're doing, that's not what we're referring to today, but to improve and to build to that next level can be really, really important. And so that specifics of this, was great, or even in our instructions on how to, we're training somebody to do a project, being very specific to help them along as well. And so I think there's different pieces of that come in when it is about communication and being very specific. I think what you said, and also broadly looking at how do we help people grow by being really strong, clear communicators as well.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Go ahead.
one tip I'll share for your listeners if it's helpful. So I teach something
Mhm.
called the formula, and it's a conversation script basically, or template for how to
Mhm.
have these conversations. And so the ultimate idea is that you're actually hurting someone when you don't give them clear feedback, because I'm
Yeah.
sure all of us have been in that role where like we're thinking, well, how do I what's expected of me? How do I grow? Hey, I want to get a promotion. And then they get vague
Mhm.
answers because there's something that's holding them back, but they're not really hearing about it. And so it's actually a gift. And so a gift to get really direct feedback. And so the formula is a two part formula. So the first part is saying something really directly and clearly.
Mhm.
When I've seen you cower, or maybe cower has charge to it, but I've seen you hold
Mhm.
back when the client pushes you on something. And let me give you an example of when that happened.
Mhm.
And the reason why that's a challenge is because we don't look confident. We might be losing fee. They maybe trust us less when they're not seeing us lovingly or confidently or with the project in mind pushback, right? And then
Mhm.
the second part of the formula is why it is of benefit to somebody besides you, the feedback giver, which is particularly useful for women because of that nurture caregiver role, right?
Right.
The reason because you might, one of your reasons you're giving the feedback might be, I don't want to have to correct you at every meeting because that's really time consuming for me, right? Like that's your reason, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
the reason I'm giving you this feedback is, right, if it's on because I think you have huge potential to grow and this is one of the things that's going to hold you back and I want to see you overcome it. Or the reason I'm going to give you this feedback is because I think there's huge potential for us to serve our clients and to be that sturdy leader who tells them no when the answer really is no. And I think that's going to
Mhm.
make them feel safer with the process. Right. So it's always the direct thing, naked, right? Unadorned, right? You
Mhm.
got like you don't want to get mushy or put all your compliment sandwiches in the first part because then clarity is lost. But then the second part is that modifier, which is why it's for a reason beyond your own reasoning.
So I want to have a quick question about, either the leader or the business owner that's promoting from within, and how can we support that employee if they're missing skills to where they want to go? Either is the next level literally up to management or something, or if it is to build a skill so that they can help with a specific project. Do you have any strategies for them around that?
Yeah. So I know that there's all kinds of 360-degree analyses, reviews. I tend to be a little bit more brass tacks. I really think about results, right? So what do they need to achieve in their role? And then what's in the way, right? So some of the things that sometimes 360 surface are things like people find them aggressive, but it can
Mm,
also be things like, you're not hitting these KPIs and here's why, right? And so when you really identify with specificity, I feel like I'm
mhm.
gonna leave your podcast as instead of Maya Sharfi, Maya specificity, but when you identify those
But it's important.
with specificity, then it becomes a solvable problem because there's so
Hmm.
much vagueness, right? It's like, oh, get more visible. Like this is the when women I work with ask for promotions, oftentimes they come to me because they're getting really vague feedback. Oh, you're doing everything right. Just keep going. Oh,
Mm,
you got to be more visible. It's like, well, what does visible mean? Like that's just so vague, right?
yeah.
So visible is we need you bringing in work, and so your visibility will help you do that. Or I'm not the only promotion decision maker. There's 10 other people on the committee and they need, the majority of them, let's say 8 out of 10, need to believe that you have these capacities, right?
Right.
Like that's what's about. Like be more visible. They don't know what that means. You might not know what that means because your brain hasn't gone to the level of defining it.
Hmm.
And we just got to get really specific about it. And then when it's specific, it's solvable.
And I mean, that's a great example as well, because that comes up a lot. Either you need to be more visible to the hiring team or you need to be able to do XYZ to move up. I want to sum up today with giving you a chance to provide a tip, either for those moving up a level or for those business owners. Any tip that you want to share as we close up today?
Yeah, this is my top promotion tip when you're trying to get a promotion. Do not, especially for women, but people of all genders, do not go to your leaders and say, I want to get promoted. What's the path? Or
Hmm.
um, anything I need to do to get to the next level. Because I call it the promotion pitfall. You're not a match with the role because the role is somebody who takes initiative and they're listening to you. And nine times, I'm not in their heads, but I would say what I hear from the leaders I coach is they're like asking me to spoon feed them the path to promotion. But if they were
Hmm.
taking initiative, they wouldn't have to ask me. And the reality is that there are unwritten rules, even if there's no formal,
Hmm.
even companies that have matrices around this is what it takes to get to the next level. There's suggestions. Sometimes those things are wrong. There's case by case, there's unwritten rules. And so the reality is there is actually a pathway, but you get stuck in that promotion pitfall where you're fundamentally not seen as a leader, and then it's very hard to grow from there, and that's why you get that vague advice. Instead, go to them with your pitch of where you want to add value, what that right next role is, what you would do in that role, right? You want to go as a match for the identity of the person who's already in that role and
Hmm.
looking like them, right? Acting like them, thinking like they would think, leading the meeting with this other person like that person would lead the meeting. It's what I call leadership conversations instead of promotion advocacy conversations. Um, and then you will get much, much better feedback if, for example, your pitch of the role or the value you're going to add is off or off base, or you actually have gaps that you're not aware of between you and that role.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. In my early career, I wanted to move into accounting. I had no accounting experience, but I went into the controller because that's the decision maker. And they already knew that I wanted to learn and grow. And so the conversation became easier when I just said, hey, I'm interested in this role. This is what I think I can contribute, like really showcasing who you are and how you might fit rather than worrying so much about the gaps, because the gaps can be trained usually, but how do you fit there, and are you a fit, right? I got the role, and it led to everything I do today. But yeah, it's an important thing as well, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I want to give you a chance to let our audience know. I know you have a freebie for them, but also a chance to let us know where to find you online, um, and where to find your freebie. So go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, come find me on LinkedIn. Maya Sharfi on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you if you heard our conversation and something clicked with you. If you have heard that vague promotion advice and you want to connect with me and share what you've heard, uh, if you're stuck figuring out your right role, please reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. So I'm on LinkedIn at Maya Sharfi, and that's like the place I hang out.
Mhm.
And then I do have a free gift, which is a what's between you and your next level role assessment. So it's a quiz, really. It takes 5 minutes. You'll answer a couple questions, and there's usually a couple of structural places that are missing when you're trying to figure out your right next role. And if you're treating it like this, we talked about this idea of decision scoping, like this giant decision, you can get really lost in it and it will overload your brain. But if you know exactly this is what I need to solve, or oh, this is a gap between me and being seen as the next level, this assessment will help you pinpoint it so you know exactly what specific problem to work on. So you can get that at buildyourselfworkshop.com/Tara, Tara.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with our audience. And just so our audience knows, if you're searching for her on LinkedIn, it's Maya. Last name is Sharfi. Thank you so much for all your insights and the great conversation today, Maya.
Thank you.
A big thank you, of course, to you, our listeners today. We hope you gained some valuable insights or practical takeaways from today's conversation with Maya. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a rating or review. It is one of the best ways to support our podcast and help us and our guests like Maya reach more leaders with meaningful stories, tips, and advice. If you are looking to clarify leadership priorities, build strong teams, or empower those around you, I'm here to help. Explore our solutions, offers, and resources at amplifyingleadership.ca, because leadership is better when we do it together.